Hello, my name is Hussein Al Khalaf. My ID number is 2014-02-106. And this presentation will be an assignment for Dr. Jodat and for leadership class summer 2018. And my presentation today will be about Malcolm X, who's one of the most inspirational leaders in my life. And this is my words. I wrote a little man who became a leader, legendary leader. All right. So we'll start with the outline. So the outline. First of all, I'll talk about his childhood, his life as a young boy, and then how he was brought up. The second thing will be the lowest point of his life, and then the civil rights movement and him becoming a Muslim. After that, I will talk about the turning point of his life, and then the assassination of Malcolm X, and then the leadership traits, which is the 6 traits that we learned in this class. And after that, I'll talk about his flaws because nobody's perfect, and then I'll talk about the summary at the very end. All right. So let's start with the childhood. So Malcolm X, his original name is Malcolm Little, and that's why what I said at the beginning is a little man who became a leader. So his original name is Malcolm Little. He was born in Nebraska, and then he moved to Harlem, New York. And as you can see here, Malcolm struggled as a child. His father was a preacher, and his father was a believer of black civil rights. And because of that, the KKK assassinated his father. And after that, also his house was burnt down. And after all of that, his mother also could not believe what happened, and she was mentally drowned, and she was taken to a mental hospital. And that's why Malcolm X struggled since he was young. But despite all of that, he was an intelligent man, and in his school, when his English teacher asked him, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" his answer was, "I want to be a lawyer." And his teacher said, "Why don't you be more realistic? Think about carpentry, for example." And that's when Malcolm X just decided to drop out of school, and that's why his childhood was not easy. It was very tough. His father was killed. His mom was taken to a mental hospital. His house was burnt down since a young age by the KKK, and of course, emotionally he will be so bummed, and he will have this rage against white supremacists. Anyway, so let's move on to his lowest point. After that, he moved to Harlem, as I said, and he became a hustler. He became a pimp, a drug dealer, as I said, a hustler. And since an early age, since he became 17 years old, he had a reputation in the streets because of all he did in the streets and drug dealing and stuff like this. So after 3 years, when he was 20, he was charged, and he was sentenced 10 years in prison. And when he entered prison, that's when he started to read and learn about Islam. And when he first entered jail, he had a nickname which was Satan, and he was named Satan because he used to make fun of all of these people who believed in God, because he just, after his childhood, he thought God was just a joke. That's why he was nicknamed Satan. But one of the people in jail, he introduced him to reading, and that's what he spent most of his time doing, which is reading. And then he was introduced to Islam. All right. So after that, he spent only 7 years, and they let him out of prison, and he was released in 1952. Let's move to civil rights movement, and Islam. So Malcolm X, and I'm trying to talk quickly because I don't want it to be too long of a presentation, because it's hard to cover all of the parts of his life. So I'll try to make this quick. His civil rights movement, when he went out of jail, Malcolm X joined the Nation of Islam, which is a movement in the USA. And the leader of that movement is Elijah Muhammad, who is the person who Malcolm X was exchanging messages when he was in jail. And when he exited, when he left jail, he joined that movement, which is the Nation of Islam, and of course he became a minister because of his charisma, because of his strong personality. He became one of the most powerful speakers for Islam during that time, and also I would like to say that due to his powerful speeches, when he left jail, only 400 people were members of Islam in the U.S. And since he joined Islam, the number rose to 40,000 Muslims, which is massive. And a lot of people argue that all of that is because of the leadership and powerful words of Malcolm X. All right. Also, he believed in one of the things that Malcolm X strongly believed in is he believed in a separate state for African Americans. He believed that African Americans must and should get their freedom by any means necessary. This was the main difference between him and Martin Luther King, because Martin Luther King, who is the most famous civil rights activist all over the world, especially in the U.S. history. But Malcolm Luther King believed in peaceful protest. But Malcolm X, his point of view was, after all this, after all of what the white supremacists did, we must protect ourselves, and we must do whatever it takes, even if it was violent, to take our freedom from these white people. Okay? And then I would like to move to the turning point. So in 1963, Malcolm X discovered something about the leader and the mentor of the person that mentored him, which is Elijah Muhammad, the leader of the Nation of Islam. Malcolm X discovered that this person, who was supposed to be a leader and a mentor, he was a father of more than 5 children, who he wasn't the father to, who he wasn't married to the ladies. I would like to say also that that leader did not follow the teachings that he was giving to people. Okay, so Malcolm X decided to just separate himself from this movement and just discover Islam, the real Islam, and he went to Mecca. And that's when he met Muslims from all over the world. He went to Mecca in 1964, and that was the major turning point in his life. Because before he was believing in violence and earning freedom for whatever it takes, and he believed that all whites are bad, and that he believed in like separate state for black people. But when he went to Mecca, all of his beliefs changed. All right, that was the major turning point in his life. Okay, and since that also his life changed, not just by his beliefs, but also by the Muslim Association, because they will start attacking him. Okay. Also, I would like to say a quote from Malcolm X. He said when he left Mecca in 1964, he said, "Anger can blind human vision." And here we can see that his mentality changed like 180 degrees. Okay. Now I would like to talk about the assassination. So as I said, since he moved to Mecca and since he was well spoken about his new beliefs, the Nation of Islam started attacking him. They threatened his family. They used to call his house, and his wife used to receive up to 6 calls every day, threatening calls. His house was burnt down while his children were there sleeping, and also on their newspaper they kept just attacking him. But as a leader, Malcolm X just kept pushing, and he kept his true message for love and peace and justice through Islam and through civil rights. And also I would like to mention something that I forgot. When he went to Mecca, he changed his name to Hajj Malik Shabazz, and that was his name a year before he was assassinated. And of course, after all these threats, he was supposed to give a speech after he started an association for Afro Americans, and before the speech he was killed. And one of the things that hurts is that his children, his wife and three children, three daughters were there when he was killed, and he was shot more than 15 shots in his chest. And when he was taken to the hospital, of course, he was dead. All right. Um, all right. Now we'll talk about his leadership traits. As I said, we have 6 traits that we were that we studied during the semester. But I would like to talk about his most powerful traits, the most significant, which is the first one is intelligence. And since he was since an early age, and I would like to mention that when he was in school, he was very intelligent. He wanted to be a lawyer, and so his intelligence just kept improving from an early age, and then he kept reading in jail, and that's it. Uh, and then the second trait is charisma. He's one of the most powerful speakers, as I said. His charisma, if you hear just like 2 minutes of him speaking, you will recognize his charisma, his presence in the room, and his personality is very strong. All right. The third one is integrity, and he was honest and sincere. Also, one of the things is he did not, when he found out about the fraud of the so-called leader and mentor Elijah Muhammad, he did not give this secret to people, because he was afraid that people will not, or he thought that because when he told the secret, this will harm the nation of Islam just in general, and people will just leave Islam because of that. So that's part of his integrity. Also, the fourth thing is determination. We can notice that he was determined to reach his goal. That's when he said, by any means possible, black people should, and they should get their freedom by any means possible. He was so determined to reach his goal. All right. Malcolm flaws. Of course, as I said, nobody's perfect. So I believe personally that one of his flaws is he was too stubborn. At the beginning, he did not, and that goes also with the second point, which is he was not flexible enough to work with other civil rights activists. For example, Malcolm X. For example, Martin Luther King. Malcolm X believed that Martin Luther King was he was just a traitor, because he believed in peaceful protests. I'm not saying each one, like one of the two is right and one is wrong, but what I'm trying to say is he wasn't willing to work with them, to meet in the middle. If he was more open to work with them, maybe both of them will reach a bigger goal, and maybe it's better than what it is now. All right. The third flaw is he did not meet with Muslim leaders before 1964. As I said, he went to Mecca, and after that he met with leaders in Nigeria, Beirut, Egypt, Saudi, and all over the world. So that all happened after he went to Mecca. So one of the flaws, I believe, is that he did not do that before. He only did that when he found out that the leader of the Nation of Islam, Elijah Muhammad, was just a fraud. If he did that before, then also, as I said, he would have achieved more. All right. A quick summary, he was Malcolm X is, as I said, one of the most powerful leaders in our history, in the U.S. history, and in the Islamic history as well. He's a civil rights leader. I believe that he doesn't get enough credit for what he has done to the Black history and to the American civil rights movement. Because a lot of people know about Martin Luther King, Dr. King, but not enough people know about Malcolm X and what he has done to this movement. Also, he was born in Nebraska. He was born in Nebraska, killed in New York, Harlem, New York. Also, his charisma is one of a kind. I believe that his speeches move me, just deeply move me. And he's a true inspiration I believe, to any African American and to any Muslim. All right. Thank you very much for your attention. I know that this took too long, so thank you for listening, and thank you for your attention. And that's me, Hussein Al Khalaf, and that was a leadership presentation about Malcolm X. Thank you very much.